Comparison is the thief of joy. Have you ever heard that phrase? We naturally compare ourselves and our circumstances to other people, and in doing so, we rob ourselves of enjoyment and confidence. Kathy is joined by her husband John today to talk about ways to pull ourselves out of comparison mode.
Hello, my friends. I'm Kathy Rhodes, and I'm excited to be with you today and challenge you to think differently. And I've got my wonderful husband, John, with us today as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready for today's conversation?
Let's do it. Let's have a conversation.
I gave him a little snippet of what I wanted to talk about today, so I know your mind has been rolling.
Yeah. This is a tough conversation. This is a good one to have, but it's also one that you probably would have with yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Time and time again.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about a quote that I know I've heard Oprah Winfrey say it, but really this quote goes all the way back to at least Theodore Roosevelt. He was quoted saying, "Comparison is the thief of joy." What do you think of when you hear this?
Number one, it sounds so profound. It's like from the Bible.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe it is, but I don't know. Sometimes I think things are in the Bible and they're
Yeah.
not. So I just know Theodore Roosevelt said it.
I know with my clients, I've probably recited that statement hundreds of times. I know my internal dialogue that I've had to remind myself thousands of times on that to keep myself from falling into that trap. And I think that's what it is today. It's a trap.
Okay, so let me add a little more to this.
Okay.
I don't remember if I was listening to a podcast or a book. I'm listening to a lot of Audible books right now. It could have been Brené Brown in her latest book that I'm listening to called Rising Strong, but I'm not sure. But listen to this. Fear and scarcity immediately trigger comparison. So, if comparison is the thief of joy, then fear and scarcity trigger that comparison. Fear comes, scarcity comes, then comparison, and then lack of joy. Did I just go?
I just got to sit there and marinate that for a minute because I can see that. You know, when you say something like that, I go to maybe a recent example of, okay, this is when I did that. Now what caused that? Okay. That makes sense.
So let's strip this down. Let's just start with the whole idea of comparison. What are the things that you compare yourself against?
If we're being honest, in front of this camera and to our audience, we are all guilty of this. I don't know of a person, regardless of how confident they may be or how at peace or how much joy they carry.
Yeah.
This is a struggle for everybody, and I think that's why it's such a valid topic to talk about.
When I think of comparison, things I've compared myself, I mean, it's everything from beauty to my clothes, my fitness, my success in business, my opportunity. I mean, there really is so many different angles to the comparison.
So we're taught to do things in moderation, right? But I could almost go deep into this that I could say, I compare myself in everything I do, whether it's in my professional competency, whether it's me being a person, whether it's me being a Christian, whether it's me being a husband, a parent.
Oh, yeah.
In everything. And
That's
I'm
a big
embarrassed to admit this, but it truly is it's almost like I don't want to say curse, but I carry this around. I can give you an example of something that just happened a couple days ago.
This past weekend?
This past weekend where
let's
stole my joy.
Let's digest this. Let's really dig in a little bit. Can you give
Like I'm in therapy
I know.
right
No,
now.
you're in coaching. You're in coaching.
No, I don't want to be coached right now in front of camera.
But you are. So let's go into detail here. What's your story? What's your example?
Okay. So I want the audience to close their eyes and just picture. You create this picture of a sunny day. There's not a cloud in the sky. It is 75 degrees out. You're on a huge lake with your family on a boat, and you guys are just tooling around, having a great day.
Okay.
The weather couldn't be any better.
Can I add a little bit to
Yeah,
this?
please.
So you come upon a bunch of people who have kind of docked in a shallow area, a lot of boats together, just a lot of conversation, people in the water, out of the water. A lot of fun is being had. Now, mind you, the water's probably about 70 degrees, which is chilly, but yet the sun is shining and it's a good day.
You had this dream too, or this revelation as well?
I had this day.
So, yeah, out on our lake that we're at, there is a place where all the boats get together and they tie on to each other. And we just spend time out in the lake and you're talking to everybody, and it is a party atmosphere. It's just so much fun. And here we are on that perfect day, and I'm tied to a boat, having a great conversation with one of the neighbors that I really enjoy being around. And Kathy's talking to the wife, and I'm talking to the husband. We're talking to their child, having a great conversation. And in the middle of this picturesque moment,
Yeah.
I find this is not easy to share, especially on camera. I find myself look at their boat, and then I look at my boat. And the moment I did that, my joy went away.
Because you were comparing yourself.
I said my joy went away, and that sounded a little bit cliche, but my fun went away. The savoring of a beautiful day was not even on my radar at that moment. I was looking at this person's, what I perceive as a 6-figure boat versus mine that I know how much I paid, and I got looking at, wow, they have that. Oh my goodness, that's a touch screen. That's that. I don't have that. And in that moment, I was no longer part of that environment. I was in my head, and it stole something from me.
It did. It did. It was a beautiful day.
I bet if you had a camera on me, you could almost see my expression on my face. I just loving life to the point where I was like, really?
Okay, so we're going to pause here a minute. Thank you, because we're going to come back to this.
Well, we could skip over it if you want.
But how many of you listening or watching, you're thinking, how materialistic can you be, buddy? Come on, you have a boat. You're on a lake on a beautiful day, having fun, and you're going to let the day be ruined because your boat isn't like theirs.
I'm guilty, and I'll own it.
Okay,
And
hold on. I'm one of those that kind of thinks that way, thinking that's really materialistic. There's other things to be worried about in life. But that doesn't exempt me from comparing myself in other ways. So the boat thing isn't my thing to compare. I've got my own demons. I've got my own comparison that happens constantly. Mine is usually related to opportunities. Like, why didn't they ask me to do that? Why didn't I get that opportunity? That totally diminishes the person who did get the opportunity, right? It totally diminishes the blessing that our neighbors have with the boat that they have. But regardless, you may not connect with the material type of comparison example that John's sharing, but my guess is you have a comparison example. So take a minute and just think. You don't have to share it on camera. You don't have to share it in the chat. But think, can you relate?
I would challenge that every single person would say they can relate. And I'll even let Kathy pick a topic, and I could tell you where I'm comparing myself. Just got done with a half marathon at the beginning of May. I was a college 2-sport athlete, right? I consider myself a decent athlete. Now I've grown older in age.
Yeah, time out. That was over 30 years ago.
Right. But I mean, I'm in
You're
shape,
still fit.
right?
You're still fit.
I
yeah.
just ran a half marathon. I felt pretty good with myself until I spoke to someone who was younger, was a female, and just finished their half marathon, not the same one, but another one, faster than I did. Now, it doesn't matter the fact that I completed it, and I had a PR, and I broke all my records that I wanted. They were faster.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I thought, frick, am I that slow? What? This goes on.
You just ran
over
13.1
and over
miles.
and over again.
I know.
It's such a challenge.
Let's go back to the boating example, okay? You are comparing your boat versus the neighbors. but we just heard a quote saying that fear and scarcity trigger comparison. What's your fear?
That maybe, oh, here's that coaching session that you were talking about. Maybe I'm being judged.
Oh, whoa. Who would be judging you?
People around me.
Is that fact?
No, it's not a fact, because I got a caveat. This person that I tied on with and was looking, he is a great man.
So,
But it's the game that we play.
are you judging you?
Maybe. Probably.
Isn't it interesting to really allow yourself to get to your truth, and to just really think about what might be my fear, what might be the scarcity.
I once heard this statement. I can't tie it to whoever I heard it from. They said that the greatest battle you'll ever face is usually between your ears.
Oh, yes.
And I know that there's so much truth. It's what story are we telling ourselves? And this goes back to a lot of your other podcasts now.
Yeah.
But truly, what is your mind speak? What are you allowing in your head? And I'm preaching to the choir, right? That I know I'm not being judged. And if I do, I've got that attitude. Okay, so what? I know that I'm extremely blessed. I know that I have peace and joy in my heart. I feel blessed. But why do I give traction to this toxic thought?
So you can't keep your mind from going in the toxicity or the red cycle or the below the line. You can't keep your brain from going there, but you can keep it from staying there. So why don't we want to stay there? Well, because we're stealing our own joy. But how do we flip it? Because I didn't realize on the boat that you had this happening in your mind. You didn't ruin the day because now you were comparing. How did you transition through this comparison that was happening?
It's a great question. And this wasn't scripted. I'm so glad you said this. So one of my Mount Rushmore people is a gentleman named Joe Dispenza, which if you don't know the name, get to know that name, because he is a fantastic teacher and a learner. I watched a podcast of his, I promise I'm going somewhere, that he says, listen, if you carry the frequency, the spirit of gratitude for 10 minutes a day, for 4 days, this is proven that your immune system will increase up to 50% just by being grateful a small period of time for 4 days of your week. Think about that.
I've heard it too, and it works.
Just being grateful for what you have and not looking at the glass half empty, but savoring that time where we have that glass half full. That's what I did.
What did you say to yourself exactly?
I looked around, and in that boat, I had my daughter and her boyfriend and my son and his wife and my wife and my 2 dogs. Instead of looking at what I don't have, it's just a matter of reminding me. Now, I sound like that person who got it all figured out, but I don't. But in this particular case, I looked around and I thought, what I do have is pretty darn good.
And you know what else? We have a boat. We have no debt on the boat. We have good health. Everyone was safe. We have a warm day. You know, there's so many angles to this that we could go. But is there any part of you that gets annoyed with this little step in the process?
It's called humanity, I think. I think it's just being human. It's when you allow yourself to go down that dark place, and in this case, comparison, fear, like you were saying, a scarcity mindset, which, oh, by the way, that's my trigger that I hate, is a scarcity mindset. Yet we can, how often does that happen? That the thing that drives us crazy might be the thing that we do pretty often.
Oh, what? Like, what's an example?
Well, scarcity.
Okay, wait. You don't like people who have a scarcity mindset, but yet you feel you go there often?
I I compare myself very often.
Which fear and scarcity are the triggers to that comparison.
I'm always comparing myself. So if that's true, which I think it is,
Okay.
I'm either in fear or scarcity. So if I have someone who I'm looking to do business with and they have a scarcity mindset, or they tell me I can't do it, or I don't know how, or whatever, don't tell me what you can't do. What can we do? That really drives me crazy. That's kind of a deal breaker for me. Yet here I was.
But here you were.
And you know what? Here I am, because I
Yeah.
do it so often.
Okay, so being grateful, and what I heard you say is make it a habit. Gratefulness 10 minutes a day, make it a habit so that it just is naturally happening in you. And you might have to create a Post-it note and put it in front of you, or create an appointment with yourself on your phone until it really becomes a habit. But I have one more little fun tool to use to maybe avoid comparison, or get you out of comparison so that you can find your joy again. And it's one simple question. Why not me? Why not me?
How often are the limitations in our life self-imposed?
Yes, all the time.
We create our own restrictions. And you say it all the time. What is your system? What system do you have in place to combat that? Because it's not going away. Everyone faces it, it seems like. So what system do we have in place? I try to start my day off. There's a term called priming the pumps. Like starting off so that when you get up, you can hit the ground running. I try to have an attitude of gratitude. Before I get out of bed, I say 3 things I'm grateful for.
What was it today?
And you know what? It may be silly. It may be redundant. It doesn't matter. A lot of my days, before my feet hit the ground where my slippers are, I say to myself, thank you for having peace in my house, which is a huge thing because I've lived life without peace. I never want to take that for granted. Thank you for having peace in my house.
Yep.
Thank you for my 2 puppies.
Ooh, even though you weren't happy with them this morning, they woke you up way too early.
They did. They kept me awake. But thank you, because they bring me a lot of joy.
Okay.
And thank you that I'm laying next to a woman that I adore and that I know adores me. Those are 3 pretty darn good things. Okay, let's start my day off. And regardless of how early it was today, pretty much a lot of times that's the same thing. Thank you for the quietness. Thank you for our home. Thank you for blah, 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 fill in the blanks.
Well, hopefully we've given you a few different ideas of little habits to create in your life, little questions to ask yourself, little tools to have in your tool belt, because we are going to compare ourselves, but we don't want to stay there, right?
And I kind of feel a little bit like a hypocrite, because we started it off by me sharing what I compare myself to others. And now my last statement was, what is my system in place to combat that? The bottom line is it's a constant war. It's a struggle that we fight through. But I know I can overcome it if I recalibrate my brain a little bit. This works for me. What works for you? Because you know the time is coming when you're going to compare yourself, which isn't right, but we do it. Now what? Are you going to stay there, or are you going to go somewhere else?
Like I said before, we can't avoid this comparison. We can't avoid fear. We can't avoid scarcity mindset or scarcity thoughts sometimes. But we don't have to stay there. We don't want to stay there. So create an accountability relationship with somebody else. Create some new systems, some new tools in your tool belt, so that you can truly have joy in the things that you do. Have joy in the things that you want to do.
So good.
Friends, I hope we've challenged you to think differently, especially about comparison and joy. Above everything, we hope that we continue to thrive in this life. It's not about just surviving. Let's thrive in this life.
Mae West said, you only have one life. And if you go about the right way, one is all you need.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Be great, my friends. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.